introduction. Welcome to Freethinker Radio, everybody. If you haven't caught wind, if you're listening online, the FM airwaves are down for the moment. They're working on the generator. That should be back up soon.
HD1 is down, too, from somebody calling in.
HD1 apparently down. We're down, man down.
Down, but not out.
We're not out, and we're excited. My brother Micah Jackson is getting set up right here, and we'll be continuing. Micah Jackson.
Micah Jackson?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're got lots to cover today. We're going to have a calling guest in about 10 minutes or so.
Right.
We'll have Dayna Martin talking to us about her new book. She is an author and a parent and activist. We'll be hearing from her. And then we're going to play some music, and then also later in the afternoon, Micah and I are going to be playing an interview that we did last week with Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, former Assistant Treasury Secretary of the Reagan administration. We talked to him a couple weeks ago. We'll be playing a short clip of that interview today, so lots going on today. All right, Micah, you ready to jump in?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
All right,
That's just me playing.
Another week here at KPFT, and we're always flexible and adaptable. So if something goes down, we just keep going, keep rolling with the punches, right, Micah?
Yeah, for sure. This is live radio in transition between shows happening. FM down, but appreciate all the listeners. We actually have a call, Derrick. You should take that call. Since they're not listening on FM, we have fewer chances for you to mess up.
Turn my mic off.
All right. Yeah, well, Derrick's going to take a call, so if y'all know the history of this show, this should be pretty entertaining. If he hasn't already told y'all and you don't know, please call in 713-526-5738. We'll take the calls as we can. We'll be with you for the next hour, bringing you news, music, and more. So,
FM might be back on.
we might be
I think
back.
FM's back on.
Oh, great.
Yeah, well, that sounds good. We're excited about that because, it's always nice to know we're blasting out the Houston airwaves across where, I don't remember all the numbers, Micah. Galveston.
89.5 Galveston, 91.9 Huntsville, 90.1 Houston, and all over the world via kpft.org. We see you out there, online listeners. Thanks for sticking with us through the FM blackout.
Yeah, we want to remind you guys, if you're tuned in Freethinker Radio for the first time, we're here every Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. And then, of course, if you want to catch us after your weekend, you can catch us on the HD2 dial Mondays from 4 to 6. And you can always listen at kpft.org/listen. And we do post the archives of our show at thehoustonfreethinkers.com, as well as post the articles and the topics that we cover in our forum there on the website. And then, of course, you can find us on Facebook at Freethinker Radio.
Why is it exciting to go there? Why should anyone care about going there? They're already listening to the radio show. What more do they get from going there?
Well, we're a little bit more interactive online, obviously, with the radio. We can talk to you guys, and you can call in. It's somewhat interactive, but online You can actually see the articles that we're covering and not just
delve deeper.
Take our word for it. But, actually get into the links and do the research on yourself, which is very important. Something we want to promote.
I was listening to the radio, and this will be real quick. I was listening to the radio this morning, and they were talking about Diderot, and it got into censorship. And, we all know about Facebook being, censored, manipulated, etc. So, maybe having the ability to get back to the source material like this and get into various news sites is really what Americans and people in the world have needed for some time. So, obviously being able to engage in a conversation without fear of censorship or manipulation of your feed is probably worth something.
Absolutely, and we love to be able to do it here on KPFT, commercial-free, community-supported, listener-supported radio, where you can always help out again at kpft.org. So, Micah, let's get into some local news. I'm going to just cover a couple of things because, as I said, we got our caller, Dayna Martin, in just about 4 or 5 minutes, and I'll let her introduce herself when she calls in. She's a really awesome person that I think you'll enjoy hearing from, Micah, and I think the callers will enjoy hearing from. But let's catch you guys up with some updates in the ongoing investigation on Freethinker Radio into Houston's growing 5G network, right? Back in October was when we first asked the Mayor Sylvester Turner, and we asked the head of Verizon, CEO Hans Vestberg, whether or not either man had heard about privacy or health concerns related to 5G, fifth-generation cell phone technology, and how it relates to Houston, and if Houstonians should be concerned. I was told by the mayor and Hans Vestberg that they had never heard of such concerns, privacy, health concerns. And on this show, you've heard us talk to ACLU lawyers talking about the privacy and security concerns. We've talked about various studies that talk about these same concerns. But the mayor says he'd never heard about this. So then I began proceeding to go to city council to give them the information, sending them the information to make sure they had heard of it. As far as we know, they've received the emails. Whether or not they read them or looked at them, we don't know. So now I've taken it to the next stage, and that is, well, the mayor's going to be out in public. Let's go find him there and ask him how he feels. And so last night I was at an event, and I was able to question the mayor, and I'll let the rest of the little interview play. It's just a short clip. You guys are going to hear the audio. We'll test it out right now and just see if we can get it playing. One of them is from the other side. All right, here we go. This is Derrick Broze with KPFT News, and we're here at Acres Home Multi-Service Community Center, where Mayor Sylvester Turner, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for taking some time to speak with me.
Certainly.
So tonight you were swearing in some new officers for the neighborhood, Acres Home Super Neighborhood Program.
Yes.
And obviously this is a good occasion for the community here, because this program was created specifically to give the communities more of a voice in the city of Houston.
To give them a voice, to make sure that that they are reflecting the views of the people in the community, and letting us, people like myself, know their needs. Mm-hmm. Super neighborhoods are very close to the communities themselves. They consist of a number of civic clubs, community activists, educators, people from the faith-based community. All that are a part of the super neighborhood community. And so when it comes to picking up their trash, streets, any of the parks and green space, all of those things you will hear about coming from the super neighborhood.
And do all the neighborhoods in Houston, or all the areas of Houston, are they assigned to a super neighborhood?
Most of them are. Some of the super neighborhoods are more active than others. This one, the Acres Home Super Neighborhood number 6, happens to be an active one, and so it helps my job when you have people in their respective communities who engage that civic engagement, and they're bringing to, let's say, to my attention things that we need to be working on or improving or addressing. It just makes it much easier for us to move the city along in a very positive fashion.
Absolutely. And so you said it gives the citizens a chance to bring things to, as you're here tonight, so obviously they have a voice with you, they have a conversation with you. And coincidentally, Acres Home is also, it's a growing cultural community that everybody's very proud of here, obviously.
Yes.
It's also one of the first places that the city of Houston is rolling out the 5G technology as the first neighborhood, because the idea was to not let the poor communities get left behind, right? The lower income communities get left behind in the technology, correct? Does the super neighborhoods offer the people of Acres Home a chance to voice their concerns about health or privacy concerns related to 5G? Is that on the table?
Well, there are a number of things that are on the table, but it's all about building complete communities, and it's all about providing the essential tools for people to make sure that they can engage in their businesses, can communicate with one another, whether it's in their homes, whether it's in their businesses, whether it's connecting with their government. All of those things are important, just like we had conversations tonight about farmers markets in the area. So
if they bring their concerns about health or privacy, would you be willing to listen to those?
I'm always willing to listen, but I tell you what, let's pick this up at another time.
Perhaps at City Council, maybe next time you talk about it. I've been waiting to hear your opinion on 5G, sir.
I know you have been.
This is the only chance I really get with you.
Yeah,
I still got it on audio.
All right, little Mayor Turner there.
That's your mayor, Houston's Mayor Sylvester Turner, saying that the Super Neighborhoods, that program, if you hadn't heard of it, is there to give the people of Houston a voice. And when I ask him if that voice includes, people of Acres Home or wherever, asking questions about 5G, he kind of gave me a non-answer, started talking about farmers markets, and then abruptly ended the question. And what you didn't get to see is that he starts walking off. As he's leaving the room, I after that recording ended, I asked him about, people are concerned about his connection to the wireless industry and 5G and his 5G Wireless Champion Award. So still no answers from him, but
how do you become a 5G champion?
5G Wireless Champion? Well, by removing all restrictions for the rollout of 5G 5th generation technology and approving the process to make it much, much easier for anybody. That's the status of that. So if you're concerned about this, I will tell you, if you're in Houston listening, there's a Facebook group called Houstonians Concerned with 5G. And there's, the HoustonFreethinkers.com, of course. You can connect with us through there. You can listen into the show. There's lots of different ways, but I would advise checking out this Super Neighborhood program if you're interested in doing something about that. But I think we got our caller on the line now.
It's your friend.
Is this Dayna?
No, it's MOD.
Oh, MOD. Who do we got? What do we got today?
Nothing big, guys. I was going to listen today, but I went and looked up who's doing the major rollout for the city for 5G, and it's Verizon.
Yep.
And Acres Home, which is a big area, Gulfton, or some call it Gulfton Ghetto, 3rd Ward, 2nd Ward, and just near North Side. Those 5 lower income areas of town are having the 5G done right now by Verizon. So the reason I'm saying it's a little bit of a concern is I listened to a doctor, a different one, talk about the rollout of this was going to be in lower income areas just so they can use its analytics, tracking, and what better people than lower income folks to get radiated and petri dish or whatever you want to call it, a use case on poor people that don't have a say.
Yeah, that's definitely something we're concerned about, and that's one of the reasons I was asking the mayor, because as you said, they're trying to prevent the so-called digital divide by focusing on bringing it to the low-income communities. And Acres Home, also known here affectionately as the Fofo in Houston, the people there are very proud of their community, and that's why I went there, because they actually... Yeah. Their super neighborhood is probably one of the most involved. There was a lot of people there. I doubt most super neighborhoods have people that involved. So they're involved, they care, but we want to get them better educated so they know why they should be concerned about this. But thanks again for the call, brother.
All right, have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye, man.
Okay, just one moment, Dayna.
All right, that's our friend MOD, and I think we got our guest on the line, Dayna, now. So we'll be talking with her in just a moment. I probably could give... an introduction that I don't know what kind of titles you use, Dayna, but welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Well, I would introduce you as my friend, as an activist, as a parent, as a proponent of radical unschooling, and you're the creative director of Anarchapulco. But go ahead and tell our audience a little bit about yourself and all the things you do.
Sure. You did a pretty good job, but I can go into a little more detail. So I'm a mother of 4, and my kids have never been to school. I've been parenting them peacefully since they were born. They're 11, 14, 17, and 19 now, 2 boys and 2 girls. And I'm an advocate for something called radical unschooling. I've written a book about it about 9 years ago, and I've traveled the world speaking about radical unschooling. I've been on TV a dozen times, Dr. Phil's show. We were filmed by Oprah. This whole philosophy and this concept is really relatively new to our culture, but it's getting more and more acceptance. So that's my main focus. I'm also a midwife, a childbirth teacher, a vegan chef, a conference producer, and so I have a lot of different things I do, but I think I'm mainly known for my work with radical unschooling.
Could you define that for our listeners? Just elaborate a little bit more on what that phrase means.
Sure. Most people know what homeschooling is, and homeschooling is basically doing school at home. So parents will buy our curriculum and do what schools do at home, where unschooling is a lot different. Unschooling is living life as though school doesn't exist. So there's no curriculum. There's no forced learning. It's really against forced learning, in fact. But it doesn't mean that children don't get an education. I think that's the big mistake that people make when describing it, or what people misinterpret about it, that unschooling is not educating, because education happens as a side effect of children living a rich, full life together with parents facilitating their learning. So I'm not my child's teacher. I'm their learning facilitator, so I bring as many resources into their lives to learn and grow from based on their interests. But, the whole school dynamic of forced learning and the institution of school is just really, really outdated. It's completely unnecessary for most parents to need to use a school. In fact, it's really kind of archaic, and it's focused on obedience and compliance. So the evolution of children's rights is happening, and people are realizing that schools focus on obedience and compliance is not necessarily the biggest lesson they want their children to learn, especially people like your listeners and like us. So there's a lot to the philosophy, but I hope that describes it well.
Sure. And what about to our listeners who might be hearing that and saying, well, if our kids aren't educated by the state, or if we don't all get the same exact education, then how are we going to make sure nobody gets left behind, or things like that? Those type of concerns.
Those concerns are really valid, and in fact, I talk about those a lot. I think it takes people opening their mind to realize that we were not all meant to learn the same thing in life, and the whole idea that every human being should have the same curriculum and be learning the same cookie cutter things is completely inaccurate based on human nature. So my children know as much as children in school, but it's completely catered to who they are as individuals. So they might not learn the same things, but they learn the same amount of things. Like they have the same, if not more knowledge, but really based on who they are and what their purpose is in life and who they're meant to be. So it's interesting because John Taylor Gatto, I really advise anybody listening that wants to hear more about this. John Taylor Gatto was New York City Teacher of the Year for like 4 years in a row, and he wrote a bunch of books, and one of them was Dumbing Us Down. And he talks about how the American education system really does keep kids dumbed down because schools were designed to produce factory workers. If you research the history of schools and you go back as to why they even came to be, why forced education came to be, it was to create factory workers and to train people to take orders. And so children are not in school encouraged to reach their potential. They're not encouraged to be individuals. And with this type of life, with unschooling, kids truly are. So it's really a different mindset, but I think it makes a lot of sense to most people.
Yeah, definitely a different mindset, but one I enjoy hearing about. Now, you mentioned you wrote a book a few years ago, and you're currently working on a new book. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
Yeah, see, my new book, it's called Raising Rebels, and it's a book based on my work for the last 15 years. So it's a collection of different quotes, of different essays, different thoughts that I've had in the last 15 years helping parents, and it's a collection of all of these for parents who want to have inspiration. They can just open it to any page and gain insight into whether it's parenting or education. So I do want to share with your listeners that radical unschooling is not just an educational philosophy, it's also a parenting philosophy, and that's the huge part about it that people, I think, have the biggest hard time understanding. I can share more about that if you'd like.
Yes, please go ahead.
So radical unschooling is treating children as you would with the same respect as anybody else in your life that you cared about. So traditional parenting is focused on obedience and compliance and behavior modification. So getting children to do what you want and to take orders and to listen to you, and that's the above goal. And the focus is on meeting the parent's needs above all else. So with radical unschooling, it's a peaceful parenting approach. And instead of living in the authoritarian paradigm, like traditionally, like most people do with children, it's a living in a partnership-based paradigm. So instead of focusing on behavior, we focus on the needs under the behavior, and we know that everybody's needs matter equally. So I'm not the wall standing between my children and their desires. I am their partner in life, and I help them get what they want. And they know that they can turn to me for advice and information, and I'm not going to punish them. My children have never been punished, which usually blows people's minds, and when I say it, they don't really understand fully. But my children have never been punished, just like I've never punished my mother, and I've never punished my best friend. I've never punished anybody that I care about. My children have never been punished, but yet they're really good people, and they're not crazy. They're not. they understand that other people's needs matter, and you can live life without that as part of it.
Yeah, imagine that. People can actually turn out as well-balanced, functioning adults without the use of violence. That's pretty mind-blowing stuff. Well, I appreciate the insight on that, and I know our listeners do as well. I want to go ahead now and ask you a little bit about your role in with Anarchapulco. Go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about that event and how you got involved with that and what the whole deal is with that, because our audience might be completely new to anything about Anarchapulco.
What's that?
Yeah. Let's talk about this. This is a really, really big part of my life right now. So I've been a parenting advocate for 15 years or so, almost 20 years now. But Anarchapulco is an event that I've spoken at every year since its inception. So I've spoken at it this will be my 5th year. And I was invited last year to take a larger role. I used to run the family camp, which is a small portion of Anarchapulco for families, but that's expanded this year. And so we have a huge family camp, and I was invited to be the co-producer. So I'm co-producing the whole event, and we have a wonderful team under us. So Anarchapulco is an anarchist event. Now, the term anarchy can be as off-putting as unschooling for some people because it has like a negative association, but there's a lot of other terms for it. It's living life in voluntary exchange and not forcing yourself aggression on anybody else. And I think most of the thoughts surrounding anarchy would make sense to most people if they could get over the word. They could really learn more about it. So for me, anarchy is about peace, love, and kindness, and that's truly what the event's about. So this year, it's grown really big. It started out 5 years ago with a little over 100 people just gathering, sharing these unique ideas of liberty and freedom. And it's grown all the way to, this is the 5th year, and we have about 2,000, 2,500 people coming. And we've taken over the entire Princess Hotel in Acapulco, and we have over 200
Taken
speakers.
over?
What?
That's my co-host. He's just messing with you, saying you're
Taking
taking over.
Oh, we've taken it over, yeah. So, and I can't believe it's actually so soon. It's coming up. It starts on February 14th through the 17th, but we do have another portion of it up on the 12th and the 13th, the Dollar Vigilante. So this is Jeff Berwick's event, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. If you're not, you should do a little research because he's an amazing pioneer for freedom. And the event itself is probably a total of, between all the extra things we're doing the Dollar Vigilante, then the main event for 4 days. And then after that, we're doing a couple different workshops that you can learn about on our website. And that's the Sasha Day Game, and there's Luke Radowski. These names might all be new to you, but all of these people are offering ways in which you can unchain your life. So the theme of Anarchapulco this year is Unchained, Life Unchained. We have a health and wellness portion with everything from speakers about every aspect of health and wellness that you could possibly think of, from veganism to yoga to all kinds of different health practitioners that are really breaking out of the traditional paradigm of medicine and sharing with people how they can break free of getting the traditional advice of turning to medication or traditional therapies. These are all alternative therapies. Then we have the family camp, like I told you about. We have a huge space for families. We have a computer lab. There's arts and crafts center. There's speakers on all different aspects of parenting and vaccine safety and
all kinds of topics.
Yeah.
So I mean, if somebody's not an anarchist, or if that word, like you said, it might kind of scare them away a little bit, or maybe they're comfortable with what you said: peace, love, freedom, non-aggression. Letting people live as they will. These kinds of things. I mean, there's going to be everything from music to workshops to discussions to obviously the beaches of Mexico. But if somebody's not an anarchist, I mean, it sounds like there's still plenty for them to get into and at least maybe become more comfortable or learn more about the idea itself, right?
Yeah, totally. I didn't even know I was an anarchist the first year I went. I had never even heard of it. I went down and it was just completely open just to speak about unschooling and learn this whole other way of being. And I didn't realize that there were other people that thought like me. So you don't have to label yourself an anarchist. My goodness, this is for anybody that wants to go down and experience new ideas, new concepts, and open your mind. And there's so many new ideas that are going to be there. You don't need to take everything on. Take what works and leave the rest. I mean, that's my favorite motto, because my favorite theory, because anytime I go to anything new like this, I'm not expected to take all of it, but I think you will find that there's something for everybody.
Awesome.
Definitely.
And the website's just anarchapulco.com, right?
Yep, anarchapulco.com.
We'll make sure to leave that on the Freethinker Radio Facebook page and at the HoustonFreethinkers.com. Anything else you want to leave us with, Dayna? Where can people find your work specifically?
My work you could find at DaynaMartin.com, Dayna Martin. You can go to Facebook and follow me on Facebook. I post there daily, and you could learn more about my life and just see what it's like through following what my kids do, what I'm doing as an advocate. I have a YouTube channel, The Sparkling Martins. But I really encourage people to go check out the Anarchapulco website and see the speakers that we have lined up and all these different activities, because I think it's something that your whole family would love to do in the most gorgeous place in the world. So we hope to see you there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here with us, Dayna Martin.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
All right. That was Dayna Martin of, well, lots of things, but of Anarchapulco. And that's Anarcha, as in anarchy, but Pulco, combining Acapulco and Anarchapulco. That's a tough one, huh? But yeah, definitely worth checking out, even if you're not going to make it out there, if you don't got the resources, the time, or the energy to be there. This year, they do have a live stream. They got all kinds of cool stuff, and there's a range of ideas being expressed there. And then for the other thing, I definitely think some of our listeners, we could maybe have Dayna on back for a longer conversation in the future just to talk more about the whole radical unschooling thing, because I know that there's a lot of
I get that it's educational and all that, but I got to ask you, is it a party?
Oh, it's absolutely a party as well. I mean, there's, that's what I appreciate about it, because I'll be speaking there next month in Acapulco, and then there's that, and then another event that I appreciate, kind of remind me of what we were doing here in Houston with For the Community, in the sense that you can go do what you want to do, right? There's during the day, there's 4 days of workshops and talks. If you want to sit there and hear people discuss all kinds of ideas, from deep research to spiritual concepts, personal empowerment, economic stuff, financial advice,
yoga,
crypto, yeah. And then each morning there's yoga, there's meditations, there's that kind of stuff. And then each night there's going to be
parties,
a different film going on. There's going to be concerts. There's going to be that. And then there's also stuff for people who want to do ayahuasca or do those kind of plant medicines. And I heard there's going to be a nude area. I heard there's going to be a rage room. I heard there's going to be a meditation area. So there's pretty much, the idea is that everything
Kinda like
freedom,
a
right?
Mecca for,
No aggression, right? Anything you want to do under the sun, as long as you're not harming anybody. If you want to be out there in the family camp with your kids hanging out, if you want to be in the other area partying, everything goes. So check that out. It is a really cool time. Lots of good ways to connect, because I know a lot of people, especially probably our audience, Micah, like, people feel alone. We know that. We've heard that for 8 years now with
Nick's filling up
free
the Princess
thinkers.
Hotel at this event, and there's significant speakers if you look at the history there
Yeah,
as
Ron
well.
Paul will be a speaker there, Judge Napolitano, Doug Casey. Then you got, some people who are more well-known on the fringe, David Ike and
And then these
Mark
other people, you
Passio
learn a
and-
lot of ideas like we did from the guest here,
Yeah, and there's a lot of people there I've never heard of that I'm looking forward to learning from as well. Like, I'm like, okay, cool. I haven't quite tapped into that particular area. And so lots of good ideas. But yeah, we're going to go to some music now. We're thankful to everybody who's been tuning in. You've been listening to Freethinker Radio on 90.1 KPFT Houston. Who is this, Micah?
Detroit Val.
All right, we'll be right back.
No matter how it goes, life has a flow, but I ain't gonna say I can predict it or I can spit it. All I know is that I am different. It seems like my different might be my gift, and so you get a little bit of me. Expose your mental weakness, let go of all the secrets. All those in the code, join my allegiance. And where you enlist, you must raise your fist and swear upon this that you will never quit. I seen inside a dream a king. Mayhem, destruction, a lunar eclipse. The planet enclosed in my fist. Return with the force of a Sith and revenge. I'll get unload and explode my cerebral and give all my thoughts to the people. One last attempt to rebuke all the evil. Right your wrongs and live your life. Fight. Cloaked in the darkness in love with the night. Exposes all your flaws, stay away from the light. Close your eyes and get in tune with your mind. Look at the world, stay in tune with the signs. Every bomb dropped and every pencil jots another onslaught. It won't stop, it gets complicated. Especially when your mind's getting confiscated. Thrown together like a damn compilation. But there's a few things you can do. Sustain the mob and stay true. When I spit is lyrical scripture that paints pictures with hip-hop's Bible. Now change your pages to revelations. As I levitate the game through meditation. Trying to gain your admiration for hard work and dedication. As I pledge my allegiance to these 50 stars and 13 stripes. Deep down in my soul, I know what I am doing is right. So I take this rebellion and switch it to a revolution. And there'll be no solution as my rebels start shooting. And it all begins anew like a New Year's resolution. Fight.
All right, that's a little bit of Detroit Val, a Houston hip-hop artist, hard worker, sold
He's always out there.
Yeah, always on the grind. 3,000 units or so.
Always hustling.
Within a year, just out on the street. And he's come through a number of Visionary Noise shows, played benefits around town. And that's one of the things we also like to do is focus on benefits. And just like the mayor, we'd like to focus on things like farmers markets. Got the Heights Epicurean Farmers Market coming up January 26th. And it just so happens that Detroit Val has been through the farmers market performing there. So there's all kinds of live music at the farmers market, people mixing up the best crafts and things that they have from within their creative sphere, honey, homegrown vegetables with non-GMO, all
I'm looking forward to
good
it.
stuff. So
Wait,
January 26th on.
That's next weekend, right?
Yeah, it got
'Cause
moved because
rain.
because this weather. They figured, well, we want people to be able to get the good food, so we don't want to be huddled indoors. So January 26th,
But
13th.
I thought people liked gathering outside in the rain.
They do. They like that too. We're not stopping that because it is free thinker radio.
So
But,
go out.
yeah.
Even though nobody's going to be there, you can still go to where the Epicurean Market would
Yeah, and just be there a week early.
be. Stand out in the rain.
So you could go this.
Nobody's stopping
Yeah, nobody's going to stop you. But I would suggest that you come back the week after, just because it's going to be more fun. There'll be music. Hear music like I don't know who's going to be there performing.
I
Perhaps
don't know how
Mr.
you
Bill.
can get more fun than standing in the rain by yourself, but
You can't.
Give it
I
a shot.
admit it.
Give
I
it a
admit
shot.
You've topped it all. I'm not even going to Anarchapulco
I'm
or
just gonna
anywhere.
I'm just gonna go stand in the heights in the rain.
Tell Derrick he's wrong. It's 713-526.
Oh, yeah, we want some callers.
5738. But we got all kinds of things going on in the local.
Let me
this
just
time.
wrap up my thought I had before Dayna came on, Micah. Right, just 2 seconds, if you don't mind. The thing I was mentioning about the mayor's, that little clip we played of my interview with him last night, really important. I do think I'd never heard of this super neighborhoods thing until I recently I saw an email about, hey, the mayor's going to be at the super neighborhoods thing. So if you go to super neighborhoods, just search that in Houston for those who live here, and maybe even wherever you live, you might have something similar. It's probably called something different, but just look it up. This is the way for the city to say, hey, we're going to make sure that the people of Houston have a voice. So you can go to this website, you put in your address. I thought you were supposed to have a
voice anyway.
This is, I mean, honestly, to me, and I'll just be real, like, this is my opinion based on my research and my experience last night, which is limited, right? We'll see how things play out in the long term. But it seems to be just a way to placate the people of the city, to say, hey, look, we're giving you a little council where you can elect your own people. You have your own super neighborhood council, and you can pick that. And last night, I witnessed the swearing in of the new president of the Acres Home Council, who I would like to reach out to, and maybe we could talk to them about 5G. But ultimately, what I'm trying to get at here is that for those who are interested, look up on the City of Houston website. You can find what super neighborhood you're in. You can look up the meetings, and whether or not you go to become the president of this, little bureaucracy, this little local board, it does seem like a way that you could maybe indirectly ask questions about 5G or whatever you're concerned about. Because I did get an email recently from a lady here in Houston who said she's trying to set up meetings with her HOA to get them to talk about the concerns of 5G. So these might be alternative ways to go outside of going to the city council.
Yeah,
and mayor.
any of your political groups could be these.
We know that they're showing already they're not interested, they don't care, right? So then maybe you put some pressure through the HOA, or you put some pressure through the super neighborhood, and before you know it, the mayor has to respond, has to say something, especially because you heard him in that interview. He said it makes his job easier when people use the super neighborhood.
Yeah, so help him out. And
Make his job easier. Use the super neighborhood, ask some questions.
Maybe understand why he loves 5G.
Yeah, why did he say he loves 5G? I think that's a legitimate question that the people of Houston should be able to, get an answer to.
He got an award.
Yeah, that 5G Wireless Champion Award from the CTIA, the telecom industry. That couldn't have anything to do with it.
Hey, all kinds of other things going on, though, in Houston. Did you see the news? I mean, it's really happening.
Did we want to play any of that interview today, or we can wait?
We can wait. I mean, we do have Paul Craig Roberts on
We'll play at least 15, 20 minutes of it, but we don't have to rush to it. Let's get a couple stories in, because I know we do have stuff going on in Houston that we want to get to. And, of course, we're here to take your calls. If you got anything to share, 713-526-5738. And a reminder, we'll be here on the HD2 dial Mondays 4 to 6. So if you don't get a chance to say something today, or we don't get all the news in today, listen in on Monday.
For sure. We have a lot more time on Monday. We get into even more music on Monday because we get the stories out early enough that there's a little bit of time for more music and more current events. So we're on either side of your weekend, kind of like the bookends for your weekend. So we're kicking it off. Hope you have a great one this weekend. I know it's going to be cold, so do enjoy. One of the articles that I'd read recently that I thought was interesting came out of D.C., that there's a lawsuit from a former staffer of Sheila Jackson Lee that's claiming that the congresswoman retaliated against her when she tried to bring forth a alleged sexual allegation.
I saw that.
Yeah, so, I guess we'll get more into it as time goes on. But for now, there's simply this suit. The staffer in the filings claims that she reported a rape to police and told several others, including Representative Terry Sewell of Alabama, that's another congressperson, Sheila Jackson Lee, and a relative of her mother's. Staffer said she did not pursue legal action at the time of the alleged assault. Years later, according to the lawsuit, woman decided she wanted to pursue legal action. This is just a few years later, so that's kind of funny language to get. But these are things you see in these articles. She was working for Sheila at the time and told the Congresswoman's chief of staff, Glenn Rushing, March 2018 of her plans. The following states: the staffer alleges that she inquired about speaking with Jackson Lee, who was the chairwoman of the board for the CBCF, about the matter, but was not granted a meeting. And then she was fired from the CBCF, which is where the assault took place, weeks after requesting a meeting to discuss it with the chairperson. It turns out that this is a quote here. The office of Sheila Jackson Lee and CBCF, for which Representative Lee serves as board chair, unlawfully retaliated against Ms. Doe after Ms. Doe threatened to sue the CBCF because another CBCF employee raped Ms. Doe while he was Ms. Doe's supervisor. Lawsuit does not indicate that the individual faced criminal charges. They did note that there is no record of a criminal case against the person who's allegedly attacking. So who knows what will happen with that, but there's more detail out there. It'll be in the HoustonFreethinkers.com if you want to get further into it. So other things in Houston and everywhere, the total lunar eclipse is taking place just a few days, January 21st, and begin 2:30 a.m. Last for 5 hours, ending at 7:48 a.m. Will be visible in North America. Blood moon.
The blood moon. All right. I got one Houston story here. And this one I would definitely be interested to hear some of our listeners' thoughts on. This is coming from Houston Public Media. Says that an increasing number of families in Houston suburbs aren't vaccinating their kids. Of course, last week we covered the story, the report from Full Measure with journalist Cheryl Atkinson talking about the government scientist who has now gone on a sealed affidavit and said that after he initially thought that he didn't see any evidence for some type of link between autism and vaccines in a small subset. I want to be clear about that before we get yelled at. Small subset of children. He, has gone back on what he initially said and said, actually, I did find evidence. So that story came out last week, and then now this one is saying locally here that a biannual report from the Immunization Partnership says that non-medical exemptions, which are exemptions, obviously they're not done for medical reasons, maybe for religious reasons or just personal reasons, for school vaccine requirements in Texas are 25 times higher than in 2003. Statewide between 2016 and 2018, the percentage of students with exemptions rose from 0.97% to 1.07%. So, I know we're talking about the whole population, and when it comes to vaccines, people are like, well, we need the whole population, we need herd immunity type thing, but the percentages here it's less than 1% to like just over 1%. So the article, the headline kind of is a little bit sensationalist in the sense, because I don't know, just the numbers are a bit low, I think, to be concerned. Either way, it says advocates worry that those increasing rates threaten groups of people who are unable to be vaccinated, such as children too young to be vaccinated or people who have certain medical conditions. Having enough people vaccinated keeps preventable diseases, they say, from spreading when they're introduced, which is called, again, herd immunity. And one of the president of the Immunization Partnership, Allison Winnick, says, when we see clusterings of these exemptions, they match up exactly with the same places that we're seeing outbreaks of disease around the country. It says that in the Houston area, vaccine exemptions seem to cluster in more affluent neighborhoods. So the wealthier neighborhoods are exempting vaccines, creating a, quote, ring around the city. Montgomery County continues to outpace the state by nearly double, with a vaccine exemption at 1.94%. So again, still a rate of less than 2% of the whole, the whole area. Galveston County outpaces the rest of the state, while exemption rates in Harris County are rising. Rates have remained below the state average. So interesting stuff here. Now, I actually before have gone to the streets of Houston and did some man-on-the-street interviews before, and I actually asked people. I went to some different parks where parents were at and said, hey, would you like to do a short interview about vaccinations? And I asked parents, would you support forced mandatory vaccinations? Is that something that you would be, down for? And I did get a few who said yes, and obviously I got some who were kind of terrified at that idea. I think rightfully so. And that's one question I want to pose to our audience that are listening right now, wherever you're listening from, whether you're listening in your car on the way home, getting ready to go enjoy your weekend with your family, or you're tuned in online. Would you support mandatory vaccinations in the state of Texas, in the city of Houston, across the United States?
It depends on scope.
Well, let's say that, like in the conditions today, there's no outbreak right now of any kind of, polio's not spreading around where we need to vaccinate everybody to stop it or things like that, right? And even under that case, there are plenty of people who would be skeptical. Let's say if tomorrow the government announced, hey, there was some new thing spreading, super
fast,
donkey virus or something I definitely would be skeptical to just taking some medicine from FEMA or whoever else, right?
Yeah.
So under those conditions, under any normal conditions, just, you imagine the scenario. Is there a scenario, let me put it that way, is there a scenario where you would be comfortable with forcing people to take the vaccinations?
I don't think anybody would be comfortable, because if the situation was so bad that even was really up on the table of the militant force.
Well, and the reason I ask this is because we've seen other states talk about this. We've seen California and other places float this idea of having a mandatory vaccination. And even I do know that there is a Texas bill that is trying to change it to make it where that parents cannot put their kids in daycare if they're not vaccinated, because I guess currently the state law allows for certain exemptions, which I think is fair and just, and this is something that the quote-unquote market should handle out, right? Let the businesses handle out. If some businesses want to say, hey, we're not going to accept non-vaccinated kids, that's fine. And for those who choose not to vaccinate their kids, maybe say like some of the parents Dayna we heard from earlier, they have businesses and daycare centers where they don't have vaccinated kids, right? I mean, that's my thinking always is like, why not have a plurality of things? But again, that goes back to the argument where those who are in favor of mass vaccination say that if you don't have the herd immunity, then people are going to get sick. So you have to get everybody vaccinated, right? So it gets into, I think, some ethical and moral questions of using force, and is that justified? And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. You can call in at 713-526-5738, or any thoughts you want to share with us. Micah, did you have a song we were going to go to? Or?
We played a song. It was a wonderful song by D. Val, but we got more songs. I got stories. I got songs. I got
stories,
it all, you know.
Songs.
And you can get us some stories and songs that you care about.
But we got no calls.
We need a moment to be able to just talk to
no
the people.
moments.
You start. I'm
just
glad you're over there answering the phones more, too.
I did answer one.
I know. It's so awesome. 713-526-5738.
Wait, try that again.
713-526-5738. Make Derrick do something. Seriously.
5738.
If you're my friend, call in now. But yeah, we got some music because you know why you need to call in. I think this song says it all. Seriously. Hey, maybe it would say it all if everything's plugged in. There we go.
I don't want to go to school. I don't want to follow rules. I don't want to watch TV. Telling me what I'm gonna need. I can't take any more. I can't take it anymore. I can't take any more. I can't take it anymore. I don't want to go to work. Working for some stupid shirt. Working stupid 9 to 5. Working till I'm gonna die. I can't take any more. I can't take it anymore. I can't take any more. I can't take it anymore. I can't take any more. I can't take it anymore. I can't take any more. I can't take it
All right. I think I missed a caller. If you want to call back, feel free to call in. I see I'm getting new to the whole picking up the phone.
Well,
calls.
I do appreciate you calling in because it was amusing at least to watch him push the button.
I tried. But yeah, call in again, 713-526-5738. You're listening to Freethinker Radio.
That was to fails.
This is 90.1 KPFT, Houston, commercial-free, corporate-free, community-supported, listener-supported radio. If you ever want to donate, invest, support our show, KPFT, the whole community here, go to kpft.org and you'll find lots of ways to do such. Yeah, Micah, you want to do, we're not going to get to the Paul Craig Roberts interview today, but the good thing about it is it's kind of a evergreen interview. It is outlook for 2019, but there's a lot of good things we can get out of it.
Yeah, there's some perennial issues.
We'll probably play some of that next week then.
Yeah, we'll still be in January. That's still, you know.
And yeah, we got lots of good things coming up. If you don't have a story immediately,
I got
Micah,
one.
I got one.
I got one. You get that one ready on deck. 10 historic buildings of Sam Houston Park have long seemed exceptional in a town that has never shown respect for its past, including homes of various styles and a charming church, all restored and furnished in the styles of their eras. They serve as the primary exhibition spaces for a collection of more than, you might not have known this, 23,000 historic artifacts. You know, those old buildings downtown in that park. But their future is now in jeopardy. Dun, 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 dun. Because
yeah, and you're talking about the ones that are just sitting there by themselves.
Yeah, downtown, right there, Sam Houston Park. But their future is now in jeopardy because there's a nonprofit charged with their upkeep, and it is struggling to stay afloat. The society recently completed the first phase of a $2 million renovation of the Cullum Noble House, a big-ticket capital improvement. Built in 1848, the home is Houston's oldest surviving building. Thought that was kind of interesting. And in fact, the society was founded in 1954 to save it from demolition. But the home's annual maintenance, this is going to blow your mind, averages $300,000 to $350,000. That's 10 homes. Right? How's it taking them $30,000 to $35,000 to take care of these 10 homes? Anyway, and the organization's annual operating budget of about $1 million does not adequately cover the $300,000 to $350,000. I'm not exactly sure. I guess they have a lot of employees. Even before Hurricane Harvey inundated the park with flooded the 1868 pilot house, the society was borrowing heavily to finance building upkeep. Financial documents show it spent more than $557,000 from mid-2012 to mid-2017 before Harvey on the structures, with no city funding for the cost of roofs, HVAC systems, paint, carpentry, alarm monitoring, insurance, pest control, and preservation planning. Efforts to renegotiate the society's maintenance contract have led nowhere, said Board Vice President Minette Balsell. Andy Eichen, the mayor's chief development officer, confirmed that while they have, quote, continuing conversations, the city hasn't agreed to provide any funding, and there is no proposal right now to do so. I don't know that, the city needs to, but these buildings are pretty cool, and anybody that's been in Houston and, they know, we don't have a lot of we don't have a preservation of our old stuff. Yeah, and I guess this is the oldest building amongst a few others in a park downtown that everybody can access. Kind of a little bit of what's going on around here. What you got?
I think that, what you said there for a moment, like that maybe the city doesn't need to fund it, right, instead of taking it from the taxpayers. But it would be cool, like, if the people of Houston, this is why I always think crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, that whole idea that the internet has helped out with, like, the hive mind, the good sides of the hive mind, right, where people are like, hey, I care enough about that. Let's come together and fund it and make sure we save or preserve that, right, or things like that. It's always exciting to see examples of that. And, so maybe people here in Houston will do something about it. The other thing I want to touch on, and this is, it's a local story, I'd say, because we're here in Texas and because we're not too far from the border, right? And, the border communities are we're a part of the same Texas family, I guess you could say, for whatever that's worth, right? And also, it's a national story because it affects everybody who lives in the United States, and it's going to affect more and more of us in the coming years. I'm talking about the Border Patrol and ICE and this growing agency, which, by the way, in case you didn't know, is the largest federal agency with just insane amount of power. We talk often, many of us talk or think about agencies like the FBI, which is the biggest domestic law enforcement agency in the United States, and the corruption within the FBI since the very beginning, right? And then things like the CIA and all the nonsense the CIA has been up to over the years, overthrowing governments, planning false flag operations, media lies, MK Ultra, all kinds of crazy stuff. Yes, everything I just said is documented fact. But the only time Border Patrol is typically thought of is, more recently, because there's been a lot of discussion on borders, right? But even bigger than that, we're not just talking about how Border Patrol affects you once you decide to go take a trip down to Mexico, or if you've ever driven in Texas, you get anywhere near the El Paso border, there's checkpoints all over the place. They can stop you whenever they want. They can pretty much do whatever the heck they want. And this is because the agencies since 9/11 have been interpreting a Supreme Court decision from the 50s to give them leeway for what they consider a constitution-free zone, which at one point was 50 miles within the United States from the border, and has now made its way all the way to 100 miles within the border. So literally the Border Patrol, and that's not just down south in Mexico, that's East Coast, West Coast, North and South, the border all around the United States, the Border Patrol believes they have the legal right to come 100 miles into the border and set up checkpoints and pretty much do whatever they want to, right? Well, what I'm looking at here is newly released documents, which were just released last week by the ACLU to The Intercept, theintercept.com. Newly released FOIA documents shed light on Border Patrol's seemingly limitless authority. And these documents, more than 1,000 pages, which were never seen before. These are Border Patrol training documents obtained by the American Civil Liberties Union after a 4-year legal battle, and they were shared exclusively with The Intercept. And they show just a number of kind of worrisome information, bits of detail, talking specifically about the Border Patrol's roving units. I never heard of this. Did you know this, Micah? They have roving patrols, which are units that operate outside of the ports of entry and checkpoints, often venturing far into the country's interior. The roving patrols can question, detain, and arrest individuals they suspect of having illegally crossed the border or having smuggled drugs or other contraband. So they're not even on the border. These are just, as they sound, roving patrols traveling around the country. I don't know, man. This doesn't really conjure up images of, friendly law enforcement community members. It's like, sounds something Stasi-like in my mind. And then the documents go on further to show a list of 21 possible articulable facts that the Border Patrol can use as a basis for stopping a car. And as you can imagine, again, 100 miles within the border, each of these is just, by the end of this list, it's pretty much anything you do, they can say, they have reason to stop you. If your car is too close to the border, if you're on a known smuggling route, if you have a presence inconsistent with local traffic patterns, if your vehicle could have been trying to avoid a checkpoint, if the vehicle appears to be heavily laden, if it's from an out-of-town area, if the vehicle is loaded in an unusual way, if it's a vehicle that is of the sort often favored by smugglers, if the vehicle appears to have been altered or modified, if it's at a time or day when which corresponds with a shift change. If the vehicle is being driven in an erratic or unsafe manner, it's driving in tandem with another vehicle. If it looks as if it's been recently driven off the road, if the vehicle appears, if the person inside appears to be looking at the agent, if the person inside appears to be looking away from the agent and trying to pay undue attention to them or to ignore them, if the person in the vehicle is trying to avoid being seen, if the person is slowed down after seeing the agent, if the person appears dirty, if there's intelligence suggesting that a smuggling might occur.
Dirty.
This crazy range of lists, which obviously could potentially be signs of a crime.
So we should get real dirty and go to the border.
could potentially just be signs of, somebody just being dirty, or you went mudding or something. I don't know, like all kinds of things.
You got a four-wheeler and it's modified and you're muddy. That's a double
Or perhaps, maybe, you're a regular person, and when you enter this territory where there's armed guards everywhere and there's a big checkpoint, there's drones flying overhead and there's cameras surrounding you and there's drug-sniffing dogs, and you know that these guys have not the best record for civil liberties, it's kind of a terrifying experience. So maybe you might be a little nervous and accidentally exhibit some of these, signs, and then you get handled a certain way. Probably most disturbing of all, though, these documents show that the Border Patrol believes that they also have what they call a city patrol, whose purpose is to, quote, locate illegal aliens within cities close to the international border. And they also believe, now you're going to love this one, Micah, they also believe that they are legally allowed to survey and monitor, and at least, they can't come into your house, but they can come on to property if it's within 25 miles of the border. They can survey and monitor. So we have no information on how exactly that's using. And I'm just going to add to that just a quick little bump on top of that. More recent documents from the DHS themselves, where they confirm that the Border Patrol and the TSA can collect data from your social media accounts, and it's legal. It's completely legal now. And there's a list of up to 61 different social media accounts that the Department of Homeland Security spies on, the Department of Motherland Security spies on. And obviously, if they're watching your social media account when you come to the border with the Border Patrol, or you go to take a flight, the TSA, this could lead to all kinds of problems. The social media accounts that they're monitoring include Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Micah, tell me I know you've checked out a lot of them, so you've probably heard most of these. Some of these I never heard of. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Qzone, Weibo is big in China, Twitter, Reddit, Pinterest, Ask.fm, Tumblr, Flickr, Google+, LinkedIn, VK,
what's that?
Donklasaniki, and Meetup accounts.
I guess they got some larger international,
like international stuff, but up to 61 different social media accounts.
Wow.
So the Border Patrol believes they can search anybody within 100 miles of the border. They also believe that it's illegal for them to have roving patrols. They believe they can monitor your land if you're within 25 miles of the border, and they believe it's legal for them to monitor and spy on your social media accounts and use that against you. Obviously, it could be used against you. That's the reality of America in 2019 going into 2020. So for my friends out there and people who might think that, look, we need to ramp up Border Patrol and we need to, fight illegal immigration. I'm not trying to say there aren't issues regarding the border and immigration that need to be discussed in a calm, reasonable manner. But I don't think building walls and militarizing those borders and those walls with these roving patrols who have all kinds of military equipment with facial recognition cameras and license plate readers, I mean, I don't see how that ends up anywhere near freedom. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, you're free to not leave. You're free to stay in the bounds.
You're free to look out the window.
Yeah.
But seriously, I worry about the time and place that if and I know this sounds way far off for some people who might be like, oh, you're way off, but it's already taking place in China, where the social credit score system over there and all the high-tech surveillance they have has made where in 2018 more than 1 million Chinese weren't allowed to fly out of their own country. Can you imagine being told you can't fly, you can't leave, and then maybe eventually like, hey, you've broken too many rules, you can't even leave your home state. Your privileges have been revoked for a temporary time.
Check it out, you don't even have to wear an ankle monitor.
You're already in the cage. You're already in the cage. But we got a couple minutes left, 713-526-5738. After that bright and cheery story, we would love to hear from you and hear what your thoughts are. Is there any hope? Is there a reason to suspect that? Is the Border Patrol right for militarizing? Is it all to protect us? Or are we just a couple of loons who somehow made it to the FM?
Yeah.
You tell us. But we really do appreciate everybody who's tuned in.
We do have
and
some
listening.
stories that we could get into real quick.
We've got just a couple minutes. Micah's got.
We've covered on the HD side a little bit. That might make some sense. AT&T said just late last week that it will stop selling customers' location data to third-party services, to third-party service providers. After a report this week said the information was winding up in the wrong hands. Gonna love this. The announcement follows sharp demands by federal lawmakers for an investigation into the alleged misuse of data, which came to light when Motherboard revealed a complex chain of unauthorized information sharing that ended with a bounty hunter successfully tracking down a reporter's device. So you can imagine the dangers there. And it turns out that, they've all been selling our location data forever. And as soon as they get going, AT&T and Verizon, hey, I heard that name before this show, right? Verizon, it says they might stop also. And, it's very interesting to watch them all jump on board. I think Sprint didn't bother saying anything. They're just like, we like that money. So, So just in case you didn't know, we got that headline. We also did talk about, John Bolton. We could always talk about John Bolton a little bit. Back in the
Push
scene.
for war. Push for war.
Yep. People are saying it's like a cult at Facebook.
Oh, Micah, one thing we didn't mention last week that I know we wanted to mention, just 2 seconds, is that the shutdown continues. I don't even we've talked about this.
Not really
shutdown. Partial
though.
shutdown, right? Look, let's be real. 800,000 people are out of they're not going to work.
Gitmo's closed,
or if they're working, they're not getting paid, right?
They closed Guantanamo, right?
But none of the bad things have stopped, right?
No
Obviously,
more drone bombings.
The people are suffering, and this is what we've told you about for years is going to happen, right? Whenever there's austerity,
so shutdown don't mean shutdown.
The people are the ones that get hurt.
I get it now.
It's not going to be the people, it's not like Trump's missing out on any meals or anything like that, right? But no, one of the things, though, that I think is a positive, because we had a couple of weeks ago where I was not making light or joking, but really saying my opinion that I think it's a fear tactic, right? And I still stand by that.
Yeah, it's like,
but the positives, right, are people are coming together. So we've seen examples of people, some who are just activists, others who are politically affiliated, and others who are just private people who want to be a good example, going to clean up the public parks, going to clean up the National Mall. People, I've seen you got Natural Light contributing and buying people meals. There's all these different private companies that are stepping up, right? And some people are like, oh, this is such a sad sign to see. You have to get Western Union to step up. And to me, it's like, no, this is what happens when government fails, is that people step up to the plate and take care of each other. And you may not like it that, it's a private individual or a private company or a corporation, but
I have some thoughts on why people might not like it.
Sure.
Because when it's government and it's just allocated to people, you don't have to get personally involved. Imagine that you needed help and you either went to either a secular charity or a church group or any sort of community organization. All of a sudden you have to talk to people, not just fill out a form. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think there's that aspect of it. And also, when things are out of the way, people don't want to put up with that. There's a lot of people who are just waiting for people to get out of the way so they can actually lead. Not by intending to be a leader, like a master, but intending to solve the problem. And you're just, in the way. So I think those two things sometimes do pose a factor, because you see it often when there are no other solutions and people jump up and find, sometimes even more efficient ways of doing it than it has been done before. So shout to everybody out there doing that in the face of a shutdown.
Yeah, people coming together, standing up. I'm always excited for that. But I guess we're about to wrap up. We're going to play our little KPFT PSA, and just want to remind you guys, please come check us out on Monday, HD2. That's at kpft.org/listen, and you'll see the HD2 dial while we're there from 4 to 6. Mondays, we're going to hang out longer. We get a whole extra hour. So if you didn't get enough of us in 1 hour, tune in on Monday.
Much more music, too.
Much more music, much more news, taking phone calls. And until then, we'll see you guys next time,
more
and we'll
reflection.
see you here on FM next Friday. Peace.